Last time we saw Blevin, I described him as taking great pleasure in constructing these verbally complex insults, but I didn't realize I recognized who this actor was when I wrote that, and now I've figured it out, it makes his casting make so much sense. This guy's professionally known as Doc Brown, not that one. I'm vaguely aware of his work as a comedian. I'm sure I've seen him on Nevermind the Buzzcocks and stuff like that. But what I didn't know until now is that he's also a respected practitioner of the art they call the rap battle, a distinguished form of combat that requires a fast mind, huge vocabulary, world-class creativity, serious improvisational skills, and the ability to skewer an opponent with a savage jibe about their mother's genitalia or the number of gentlemen callers she entertains. Which is perfect for Blevin because despite his shortcomings, the one thing you don't want to do is get trapped in a verbal duel with this guy. Not in front of others at any rate. My read is Dedra is cleverer than him, thinks he's beneath her, but she finds it inefficient to channel her thoughts into verbal dexterity when she has loftier goals and a laser focus. I don't like talking ahead too much, but we know she Cordelia's someone with a lot of verbal power into submission later in the series.
I'm the nastiest girl in Sunnydale history.
She, in comparison, sounds almost childlike here. Children are efficient with their speech. With her, I want the full Ferrex report, and threats of appealing to a higher power to solve the disagreement. We don't know if Blevin would usually expect colleagues to knock when they enter his office, but Dedra sure doesn't. Opening his door and marching in, he doesn't turn, pretends she's not worth engaging, but his eyes widen and a frown appears nonetheless as she addresses him. At first I thought it looked like shock that someone less senior spoke to him so directly, but they're both lieutenants, so it's probably because she's less tenured, and maybe because she's a she. Blevin's face here suggests her direct tone with him is not really simpatico with what he sees as the pecking order. They both think they're better than the other. When she brings up the stolen Starpath unit, she's technically correct. That theft does give her jurisdiction, but the ISB isn't a place where protocol always wins. It's a place where territorial custom usually wins, and that says the file belongs to Blevin. Once again, Dedra's right by the book, which makes it wrong, because there's an unspoken protocol that governs how organizations like this really work. It's a fiefdom. In bureaucracies, especially authoritarian ones, people carve out their own territories of control. Over time, everyone learns not to cross certain lines, even if those lines aren't written anywhere. Dedra crossing those lines like they aren't even there is why Blevin was so shocked for a moment here. Dedra's curiosity should be rewarded. It's the kind of forensic diligence that keeps an empire intact. But the empire is a system that fears initiative as much as it depends on it. That's what makes this exchange tragic. She's the ideal bureaucrat in a structure that punishes perfection. Her ambition looks like disobedience. Her competence looks like threat. Andor understands something most stories about authoritarianism miss. Evil doesn't just flow downwards. It breeds sideways in offices, in rivalries, in the cold satisfaction of winning a procedural argument. When you're climbing the ranks of the Empire, you do so alone, and Blevin's right, you should never look down. Not because of fear, but because if you ever did, you'd see what the Empire really stands on. An infinite void of people just like you, still falling.